subject. Please welcome to the stage Conor Upton, Group Design Director at Fjord, Dublin.
Thank you. Hi. Ooh, forward. Great. Hi. Hello. Yeah, I'm Conor. I'm with Fjord, Dublin. Fjord is an international design agency, and here in Dublin we sit at the heart of the DOC, which is Accenture's global centre for innovation. And as a designer, this is a really interesting place to work. We're around 45 people in the team. We sit alongside similar-sized teams of data scientists and software engineers and industry experts. And we work largely on projects that involve artificial intelligence in some shape or form. And we're also a venue for clients. We have clients who come in to discuss innovation, design, technology. And over the past couple of years, many have come through quite curious, often quite concerned, but more than often very confused about artificial intelligence, what it is, where it fits into the world, how it's going to affect their business. And it's not very surprising that they're confused. Last year, these two introverts in Silicon Valley had a bit of a spat on Twitter. Essentially, Musk thinks that AI is going to kill us all. Zuck thinks it's going to save us all. Fundamentally, they're talking about two entirely different things here. So that's pretty confusing for people. Webster defines AI as the capability of a machine to imitate intelligent human behaviour. And that seems straightforward, but those last three words, imitate or intelligent human behaviour, even that's kind of confusing. Can we even agree on what that is? And it's confusing as well because AI is not science fiction. As you've heard at many of the talks here, AI is actually in our lives right now. It's all around us. It's on our phones categorizing who our friends are. It is allowing us to navigate the world. Most of us probably experience it because it's basically telling you what to watch and what to listen to in your media channels. But is this AI? Is this imitating intelligent human behavior? I mean, it's processing information around the world and making predictions, so yeah, to some degree. But these experiences of AI are deeply rooted in digital products and services. And actually, for most people, they wouldn't think of it this way. John McCarthy, one of the pioneers of the field, once said, as soon as it works, no one calls it AI anymore. And I think that's the case with a lot of these types of experiences. So yeah, confusing. And evolving. AI is continuing to evolve. Certainly, we've moved now beyond the stages of pure classification in large data sets and prediction. And we've moved into the space of generation, of actually creating new ideas and new materials. This is a tool that Autodesk released a number of years ago. This is called generative AI. And what this tool does is a designer, a product engineer can actually sit down and say, okay, I want to build something and it has to operate to these parameters within these constraints, this much material, this much efficiency. And the AI then goes and generates multiple options, multiple varieties on that concept. Is this imitating intelligent human behavior? Well, as a designer, I find this pretty fascinating because essentially, as designers, we investigate, we do design research, we frame problems, and then we start to sketch. We sketch out solutions to the problem space. This is doing this. Kind of concerning for us, kind of confusing. But where we're really starting to get concerned, I think, in general, is the unintended consequences of artificial intelligence, particularly when it's applied at scale to large-scale digital platforms that have recommendation systems that can be gamed or the risk of biases within them. And we've seen this multiple times. We've seen this with the judicial sentencing decision support tool that had racial biases in the inherent training data set that then got codified. We've seen it with HR recruitment assistance tools, where in the technology sphere they have a tendency to favor male candidates. We see it in some strange places, like we've seen it with computer vision algorithms that have made it all the way into products, despite the fact being trained largely on Caucasian features, giving us embarrassing situations like the one up top here. And we're starting to see it in some, what I think are really disturbing places like this.
5 little monkey jumping on the bed. One fell off and burned his head. Mama called the doctor and doctor said No more monkey jumping on the bed.
So I'm sure you're all wondering, what the hell is that? I have a 3-year-old at home, and like many parents, I've given in to the temper tantrums and allowed him to watch that cartoon on YouTube that he really wants to watch. I've tried to stop doing that after I read an article last year from James Bridle, where he described how the ad revenue from children's nursery rhymes have become a target for bot-generated content and comments on a lot of the video platforms. They use nursery rhymes and famous characters, these type of tropes, to game the recommendation engines of these tools in order to surface these ads. This one's just weird, but some of them have violent and sexual references. So is this imitating intelligent human behavior? Is this wise? Is this what we want AI to be doing? I think Kevin Kelly, in his book The Inevitable, sums it up quite well. He says, we're morphing so fast, our ability to invent new things is outpacing the rate at which we can civilize them. And I think for many of us, we feel that AI is actually in this space right now. And so in the midst of all this confusion, how should we think about it? We're at a stage right now where what AI affects economically, socially, politically, is getting confused with what it is technically. And for many of our clients coming through, this is quite a challenge. So how should we think about AI? Well, we could go and talk to an expert. Like I said, we sit alongside large teams of data scientists. But when you ask an expert what is AI, what you hear is that it is an umbrella term that describes a range of machine learning technologies. And you start to hear quite cryptic terms like neural nets and random forests. And while these are technically accurate descriptions, it's very difficult for our clients, and indeed for our designers, to relate these back to business challenges or pain points that people experience in their work and lives. So what we've been doing is we've been reframing the technology. We've been translating it into human terms in order to make it more relatable, talking less about what the tech is and actually talking more about what it allows us to achieve. So we don't talk about computer vision. We talk about seeing. It's not natural language processing, it's reading. We talk about hearing, touch, recommendation, creation. By translating the technology in this way, it becomes much easier to apply it to real-world problems. And we've been using this to work on some ideas and some projects with clients. So I'm going to step you through some of these. So seeing. Computer vision has reached a stage where it is able to process real-time streaming data, identifying objects, identifying intentions. We're also carrying cameras around in our pockets all the time. And actually, if you couple the cameras with the AI, you end up with a set of extra eyes that can be used to make the user experience in many scenarios much more seamless. This is some work that comes from our Fjord Austin studio, where we took this on board in the retail consumer space. So moving on, reading. As humans, we read to try and understand other people's perspectives on the world. But there are limits to our cognitive and perceptual abilities on this. What if we need to understand the opinions of large populations? We've actually been applying natural language processing within our own business to augment our design research process. We recently worked with an insurance client who came in who wanted to progress beyond classical insurance products and think about digital services that they may offer to their clients as well. But they didn't know a lot about what is the lived experience of people with chronic health or their carers. This video just quickly shows what we did around that.
We interviewed 200 senior care providers. We analyzed their responses using natural language processing and generated bigram networks that surfaced the key important themes. For example, when asked, how could your caregiver learning experience be improved? We can see that carers need support and that they want classes, but they have little time for them, so they need better options for learning. These visualizations provided a reference for discussion with our client around the true user needs.
So let's move on to hearing. When we hear AI and then you hear hearing or listening, I'm not sure how many people make the connection, but actually speech-to-text technology has been around for quite a while. This is a project that we worked on with a police force that was looking to improve their command centres and their emergency dispatch. As humans, we're very good listeners, but actually when we have to divide our attention between listening and data entry, this can be quite challenging. So we worked with them to provide a solution that would allow the communications officer to focus in on the victim, calm them down, and reassure them that help was on the way, while improving the rate of dispatch and response.
Police emergency.
Hello, there was an assault in the street. There's a man down. He was attacked by 2 persons on a motorbike.
Can you tell me where this has happened?
I'm in Green Street. I think he's been stabbed.
Please confirm the man is in Green Street. You believe he's been stabbed?
Yes, the man is in Green Street.
I think you get the idea with this. Is essentially using speech to text to process the call and surface potential locations and get people responding a lot quicker. Moving on then, touch. Robots are not artificial intelligence, but artificial intelligence is changing the nature of robotics. Historically, robots were used in industry to do highly dangerous tasks. They were kept away from people because they were dangerous themselves. But we've been exploring a whole new generation of robots that have visual and haptic sensors embedded, making them safer for people to interact with. And these collaborative robots or cobots are changing the way that we can work. We've got a demonstration outside, the augmented manufacturing one, where we show how we can divide perceptual and physical tasks between humans and machines to collaborate in these types of environments. So check it out. We've gamified it a bit. It's good fun. Recommendation. Again, as people, we love to recommend. We love to be able to try and understand what a person's preferences are and make suggestions to them. But with IoT and the deployments of sensors over broad areas, this totally changes the scope of recommendations we can do. Another project we're doing at the dock is working with postal services. So national postal services are actually, as an industry, in a state of terminal decline, because their business models was developed around putting a letter through the door of your permanent abode one time a day. And that has very little relevance in a world where consumers expect fast, flexible package delivery wherever they are. So we're using a combination of demand prediction and route optimization to allow them to move to a continuous collection and delivery model. And building on top of their existing infrastructures and their existing workforces, this is allowing them to stay ahead of the emerging competition. These are some screens from the dispatcher command centers that we've been working on. And finally, create. The whole field of computational creativity has really exploded in the last couple of years. And yes, like many other agencies, we're looking at generative adversarial networks, the ability for AIs to create images from scratch, its impact on things like fashion, like creating these handbags to match these shoes. But we're also exploring other areas. I don't know if you've been to our stand out there, but one area we've been looking at, working with a large food manufacturer, we're looking at how AI can allow them to open up new product lines, generate new innovative concepts around their food products. The picture here are some tapas that we cooked up at the dock as part of the exploration of the work. The middle tapa there is a bitter chocolate mousse on a Parmesan crisp, so a bitter chocolate taco. It's pretty tasty. I don't think you can eat it, but you can see it and sniff it out in the lobby there. So this framework, we use this framework to work with our clients. We use service design methods to do research and to frame the problems. And then we use this framework to discuss the AI opportunities that can help them. Now, one trend that we've seen is that very often clients move straight to, oh, well, I can use this for automation and I can use this for workforce replacement. And it's not surprising because that's essentially been the business model for the application of AI that's been predominant over the last decade, thinking of it as an automation technology. But I think with some of the examples you can see here, I think this is evolving. I think this is changing. And it needs to, because while AI will disrupt workforces, the nature of work itself is changing. With digital transformation, we're going to see far fewer jobs in the future that consist of procedural tasks that can be easily automated. But on top of that, if these technologies are as powerful as we think they are, shouldn't we be using them for value generation, not just cost saving? Shouldn't we be looking towards new business models or the radical scaling of quality? And I want to talk to you just a little bit about where to next. How we can move beyond automation, start to think about collaboration and the creation of symbiosis. So first of all, how do we get out of this automation mindset? How can we start to move beyond it? Today, we are humans living in a world of inhuman scales. Right now, there's 500 million products on Amazon. There's 400 million properties on Airbnb. There's about 400 hours of footage uploaded to YouTube every minute. And despite these inhuman scales, we still face the same human challenges. So as a consumer, understanding or figuring out what to buy, where to stay, what to watch. As the provider of these services, the same challenges around infrastructure, supply chain, maintenance of quality. And AI will play an important role in achieving and solving these problems, but it's wrong to think it can operate on its own. And that's what automation is. So just to kind of bring this home, I want to just play through a quick thought experiment. Over the last year, we've heard a lot of talk from social media organizations about applying AI to deal with issues like cyberbullying and abusive content. Like it's going to magically, deal with this issue. The reality is today, we have groups of people who spend their time responding to user complaints and deciding whether this should stay up or come down. And this is a problem of scale. There is way more content there that can actually be reviewed. The automation assumption is that a well-trained algorithm will be able to intercept this content and take it down. And let's think this through a little bit. Well, first of all, as we've heard from many other speakers, we're talking about machine learning here, which is a probabilistic technology, which means there will always be uncertainties that can't be dealt with. So we will need to keep humans in the loop to deal with those uncertainties. But in this case, we're talking about text or we're talking about video, both of which are forms of language. And language is highly nuanced. It's highly contextual. It's also constantly evolving. We're dealing with global platforms here. So when you think about dealing with localization and dialects, then actually the training data is quite small. So it makes sense to keep humans in the loop if we want to maintain the same level of quality in terms of understanding and controlling this content. But thirdly, keeping humans in the loop is actually the best way to allow the models themselves to learn, to train, to evolve. If we can move beyond this kind of concept of automation and workforce replacement, we can start to think about designing digital processes as living systems that involve both human and artificial intelligence collaborating together. And if we can get that right, what we're able to do is essentially massively scale the service itself while maintaining that same level of quality. So keeping humans in the loop allows us to bring flexibility, resilience, and human context to these services, which is really important. If we believe in this, if we want to build out these services as living collaborative systems, we have to think more about collaboration. How do we get human and AI working together? And this actually isn't a new idea. Around 15 years ago, Garry Kasparov, the world chess grandmaster, was beaten by IBM's Deep Blue algorithm. After that defeat, Kasparov went on to become very fascinated with a new form of chess, a new form of gameplay called freestyle or Centaur chess, where human players work directly with chess algorithms and compete against other Centaur teams, sometimes against human teams, sometimes against other chess algorithms. And through these tournaments, what we found is a number of key insights. First of all, there are new strategies, new ways of playing the game, new moves that could not have been discovered otherwise. We've also seen improved performance. The combination of computational brute force and human flexibility consistently outperforms very strong players and the same algorithms running on faster computational infrastructure. And the other thing is that the interaction is key. So it's not just about putting a human machine together, it's the process. how the human knows when to trust the machine, but also when not to. As a designer, I find this really fascinating, because this process, designing this process, this could be the future of interaction design. So if we accept that we should be designing living systems that are collaborative, then we have to think a lot more about that relationship. Because if AI is going to push us into directions we wouldn't think to go, if it's going to challenge our orthodoxies, then we have to think about how we design it as less as a dictatorial boss telling us what to do, and more of a highly collaborative colleague, someone we can trust. So we've been looking at what are the characteristics of good teammates. We've run a number of workshops around this, and the things that have surfaced are things like communication, expertise, self-improvement, efficiency, adaptability, and spontaneity. These are the qualities that we really appreciate in teammates. And we've taken these qualities, and around these we have developed design principles that we use as designers of collaborative AI to ensure that these systems will be trusted, that they will allow us to enhance the human experience. And there are things like observability, being able to see what the AI is doing, why it's suggesting going a certain direction. And that only makes sense if we also have directability. So where the human has access to expertise, tacit knowledge, other data sets, that they can actually, if the AI is going in the wrong direction, they can direct it, they can intervene. It's things like feedback. If you're directing again and again, the machine should learn, it should take that on board. It's things like resilience, knowing when to back away in the face of uncertainty. Things like responsiveness, the tempo, operating on human scales. Sometimes that involves speeding up the AI, sometimes it involves slowing it down. And finally, creativity, because we don't want it to be telling us to do the same thing over and over again. Believe it or not, we don't really want to work with robots. We don't want to work in those routine tasks. So if there are three takeaways I'd like people to take from the talk, it is this drive that I feel right now we should be moving beyond the automation mindset and thinking more in terms of designing living systems. These systems need to be collaborative. We need to build Centaurs. And as we build these systems out, we need to think about creating symbiosis, designing these AI experiences as teammates. And we have to design these features in. They don't come for free. An algorithm at the end of the day is an algorithm. The experience that we get is based on how we design the collaboration. I think it's critical right now that we open up the communication channels with AI, that we democratize the technology. Because right now the human experience is largely intermediated through it. And to leave you with a final quote from Kevin Kelly, this is not a race against the machines, this is a race with the machines. So I hope there's some guidance to be taken from this. Thanks.
Very much.